We knew it was coming, and now we know the details. Pricing! Everybody loves to talk about pricing, and we sort of knew it was coming. And no, we're not talking about the discounts where last week and some of the weeks before we saw the Xbox Series S for selling as low as $199, but more typically $249 across the board. This time we're talking about games. Now, Microsoft's chief head officer on the Xbox side, Mr. Phil Spencer, earlier this year said, hey, we anticipate the games and pricing may go up for consoles and games and everything else. And he did say that through the holiday season, they were going to keep the prices where they were. And in the case of the Series S, actually drop the price. But with games, it looks like the story is changing. Now, my buddy Jez, everybody knows him from over at Windows Central, got the scoop in that game pricing is going to be going up to $70 in 2023. Now, the actual quote delivered to him from the Microsoft, which you should go read the post and it'll be linked down below. It says, we've held on price increases until after the holidays so families can enjoy the gift of gaming starting in 2023. Our new, built for next gen, full price games including Forza Motorsport, Redfall, and Starfield will launch at $69.99 on all platforms. So this price reflects the content scale and technical complexity of these titles. As with all games developed by our teams at Xbox, they will be available Xbox Game Pass on the same day that they launch. Now, this is not unexpected. We've seen other publishers and Sony itself jack that price up to $70, and let's be honest, games are getting more expensive. Actually, from the Activision acquisition detailed documentation, the Call of Duty games looks like they typically have budgets of around $300 million each to get a world-class AAA, Quad A, whatever you want to call them, title out the door. So $70 isn't all that unexpected, but this is a double win for Microsoft. First off, they were sort of last to do it, so they get a nice little whatever, like, hey, we're the slow ones to update our pricing and all that sort of stuff. But this really plays into the Xbox Game Pass narrative even more because now it's, instead of $60, it's $70, which just makes Xbox Game Pass an even better value. So next gen titles, if you're going to be playing them on standalone or buying them standalone, and does anybody, I was about to say, grab the box off the shelf, but that's sort of a dying breed. But if anybody's planning to buy the game outright, it's going to be $70. Otherwise, you're going to be paying at least $10 here for Xbox Game Pass, which brings up an interesting point. I still believe that Microsoft is waiting to update the pricing for Xbox Game Pass and potentially even Xbox Live Gold all throughout this acquisition process. We're already seeing Microsoft starting to tinker with the price of the games, which really sort of artificially increases the value of what Xbox Game Pass is. Obviously, $70 or as low as $10, I should say, to get you into the game. It's pretty compelling offering at that, unless they start raising the price, which many of us, myself included, think they might do, especially if they can close the Activision acquisition. I do believe that Microsoft would be justified once they put Call of Duty into the Game Pass experience as a day one launch or just available. It will become they should be increasing the prices. I mean, at the end of the day, they have $70 billion dues that they've got to deal with, which brings the other question up. Like, what is going on with a couple different things? Games with Gold, which is just sort of floating out there and feels like a legacy product from yesterday. Then there's also Xbox Live Gold, which again just sort of feels like a legacy thing. And then we have Xbox Game Pass, and then we also have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And there's also PC, and the console and PC start at $9.99, and then the Ultimate is $14.99. I would fully expect that sometime in the future, if Microsoft is really trying to juice some of these numbers, I honestly believe that they should just get rid of Gold completely and make some sort of tier potentially free, but they can use that as a justification to raise Game Pass pricing by $5 across all tiers. And then you could even potentially think about justifying another $5 increase once Activision is in there. So imagine paying $14.99 for effectively Xbox Game Pass becomes the new Xbox Live Gold. You got to have it to start playing. It's an interesting thing. We'll see what Microsoft does there. They're sort of in this limbo state where they don't want to jack around too much with pricing and everything else as they're trying to close this massive acquisition. And so we might not see them change too much here in the immediate future, but it's got to be on the agenda, you would have to think, because now they've just got some sort of SKU confusion, especially for people onboarding, which is why I just tell everybody, go out, buy an X. I got contacted 7 or 8 times, like, what console should, like, go buy an Xbox Series S, get Ultimate, and then you're done. Just know that you're paying $15 a month for a long time, you'll never buy a game, and you'll be happy. And I honestly think for a large percentage of the population, who's especially buying an Xbox console at this stage, that's a great narrative for Microsoft to run with, which is why we see them discounting it for the holiday shopping season. So with Microsoft, I think we could see a very easily justifiable $20 a month for Ultimate. I think that is doable, especially if once they close the Activision acquisition, and then especially once they start including gold potentially in the lower tier, put that up to $14.99. I think that might make a lot of sense. We'll see what Microsoft has up their sleeve, but they're already talking about augmenting pricing because, let's be honest, developing games is more expensive. So $70 for Redfall and for Starfield, which makes you kind of wonder. We all know that Microsoft delayed Starfield until sometime, and I believe they said the first half of 2023. I'm crossing my fingers for earlier rather than later release, but at this point, I just want a good game. I don't really care how long I have to wait. I just want a fun, playable game because Starfield has a lot of hype around it, and if it doesn't do well, that's going to be rough. But you had to be thinking like, man, if we waited until 2023, we could get an extra 10 bones per title, and that would really help justify what they're doing. And so I don't know if that was the true narrative for part of the delay, but you got to think it factored into it, because coming out of Xbox Game Studios, I think you could all argue that Starfield is probably the highest level and most anticipated game coming down the pipeline. So you've got that. One other thing I want to touch on here. So as Microsoft continues to try to buy Activision and acquisition and that whole thing, we've heard rumors coming out all over the field from just various sources. Now, the New York Post, I believe, had a recent post where they said, look, it's not actually so much guaranteed that they are going to get sued and stop this. It actually sounds like there's a lot more waffling going back and forth. And because of how the FTC is structured to be able to block or at least sue in this instance, they got to pretty much have the majority of board members on board, with saying like, look, we should block this, that sort of thing. And so it sounds like now that maybe that's not such a guaranteed. So we should still be hearing about it here in the next few weeks. It was originally stated, not by the FTC, I believe itself, but by rumors and people close to the matters, that it would be concluded, or at least the initial ruling would be done by early or before the end of the year. So, and let's be honest, nothing's going to happen on Christmas Day, unless they just hate people like me and want me to record a video on Christmas Day, which I would do. But either way, it looks like we should be hearing more from the FTC. The EU stuff is still going on, the Call of Duty stuff. And then there's also been those crazy rumors that Microsoft and Sony were meeting in secret to hash out all of the deals this past weekend. So if any of that has come into fruition, we'll find out here in the near future. So a lot going on, even though we're heading towards the holiday season, a lot happening behind the scenes and above the scenes and officially and unofficially. So as always, make sure to keep it subscribed here, because the only BS on this channel is me.